Hello, everyone, and welcome to Most Common Revit Mistakes. My name is Juliana, and I work in marketing here at MicroCAD. And today's presenter is Sandra Volgemuth, our applications specialist. At today's webinar, we will delve into the most frequent Revit mistakes and provide actionable strategies to achieve flawless BIM modeling. Throughout the webinar, as usual, you can ask a question on the left-hand corner. You can ask Sandra to revisit a step or ask any questions. This is your time, and we want you to make the most of it. And in the upper left-hand corner, you will find links to our social media, website, and YouTube channel. Make sure to check out our YouTube channel. We post all of our webinars there at the end, so you can share with colleagues or watch it on your own time. And without further ado, we'll pass it on to Sandra. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, everybody. How are you guys doing? I hope you're having a good beginning of the afternoon, and I hope you're all prepared for our session today. The way I named it is most common mistakes when using Revit or best practices when using Revit. So, Juliana, are you seeing my screen? For some reason, I don't see it happening.
No, not yet. Maybe try it again.
Yeah, I don't know why that didn't come through.
No, it seems like it's showing now. Oh no, it's black. Sorry.
Yeah, let me see if that comes through. Oh. Yeah, I still see just a black screen. Sorry, guys. Third one is the charmer, should be. Let me know, Juliana, when you guys see my screen. While that comes through, let me introduce myself in the meantime. My name is Sandra Volgemuth. I am an AC solutions specialist at MicroCAD. I also have a background for almost 8 years as the BIM CAD manager with an engineering firm. And I have been in the Revit industry and involved with Revit since the year 2005. I have seen the software developed and being developed, and I have been teaching and training Revit for a whole bunch of years now. My idea today is to talk about the most common mistakes that people do when using Revit. I hope we make this an entertaining time. So my next slide, even though it talks about DWG files, but it has to do with naming convention. And it doesn't matter if it's a DWG file, an AutoCAD file, or a Revit file. Please keep your naming conventions logical. I mean, you cannot have a naming convention that is called final, pre-final, final plan. And then the next file is called free final plan from me to you with love forever. So you need to standardize. So you need to standardize the way you name your projects. And then you also need to standardize the way you name your families, your types, and everything. To me, the most, and I have here examples of the way I would name my files. So project files should be project number, name of the project, And very important in Revit, because Revit is not backwards compatible, you should have in your naming conventions of your projects, you should have the release in which the file was created. For your families, they should have, if you want to keep a control over your users, if they're using the families that have been approved by your BIMCAD department, your families, your own custom created families, their name should start with your company's initials. Then the family should contain the category of the family and then the type of the family in its name. For text items, and this is a pet peeve for me, text items need to tell the people what they are. They need to say that the size of the text, the font, and then any other special item if they're blackened, italic, underline, or the color. And then when you create your PDFs for delivery, start their naming with the date of the delivery, and then use your project number and the name of the project, and then you can let Windows sort them out in order. You don't need to buy a special program to sort out your PDFs and to organize them in Windows. And that helps you keep track of stuff in an organized way that makes sense. You will be so much more productive. Next thing that I see that happens a lot is that you have work sets created, and then you will have them all open and all editable, and that will slow you down. So first of all your work sets should be set to not editable. That way nobody is that way everybody can work in each work set. The other thing that will slow your system down is having too many unresolved warnings. Okay. Next thing that you have to keep in mind. Oh my God, just give me a moment. I don't know. That should have been silenced long time ago. My bad. I asked for you guys to excuse me. I thought this was silenced. Apologize greatly. So having unresolved warnings will slow your system down. So you want to check on your warnings constantly and make sure that they are resolved. The next issue that I find very commonly is that people bring in CAD files and they explode them in the project. Some people that say that that is a huge no-no. I say, from my point of view, that if you have CAD files, and the only time that I use CAD files in Revit is when I am bringing in typical legacy details and I want to reuse them as Revit models, I will open them in a separate model, not in my work model. I will explode them there. I will make them into all Revit entities, and then I will purge that model to no end so that all those lines, all those line styles that get created after you explode a CAD file, they are purged out of your model and you don't have to live with them. And then once you create those drafting views, they should be imported into a drafting view. You should have a separate model for your details called a detail model. You can separate them. I mean, if you're in the MEP industry, you can separate those detail models into your mechanical model, detail models, your plumbing detail models, your electrical detail models. In your architectural realm, you might want to have just one detail model, but they should be the same as you have your own company's library for your families, you should have your detail model, and then you can bring those details into your working model through the insert from file command that you find in the insert tab in the Revit interface. Next item that is a good advice is if you come from CAD, or if you're a good typist, use your keyboard shortcuts. It's a big time saver. It saves you time instead of having to move your cursor back and forth. Use your time saver. You can customize your keyboard shortcuts through that window that I'm showing there, through the options dialog box. You go to the options dialog box through the file drop-down menu. And then in the user interface tab, where I have it marked here, you can customize your keyboard shortcuts and assign a keystroke that has not been used by any other command for your most favorite commands. My next pet peeve, and this is me, with me by myself, because I get annoyed sometimes. In place families, try to avoid using them. I mean, use them with care if you're going to go through the hassle of creating a family, unless it is a very extremely particular situation where that family just needs to live and it's only good and usable in that project, then use it. But as I said, I much rather create permanent families and then make them editable so that they're usable in different situations and they're customizable. Talking about families, bringing in families from the web. Be careful with that. Be very careful with that. There are some locations, I mean, in the architectural industry, you have the advantage that you have some companies that have gotten into the Revit bandwagon and they have families that are readily available in their website. Use those families when you're going to use exactly that element and you don't want to do that many edits of it. If you need a family that you yourself want to be able to manipulate, learn to create families, get some Revit jockey in your company that is very good at creating families, and create your own families. Because what happens when you bring in families from the web is that they have a whole bunch of parameters that might have been very logical to the person that was creating the family in the moment that he was creating the family. But because you cannot insert yourselves into that person's brain, once you download that family and you go into the parameters, you will scratch your head and go, what do I do with all this stuff? The other big issue that I see when people are working in Revit is that they create dumb tags, or they use text instead of tags. As I said, just please don't. That is one of the big, just please don't do that. I mean, you're taking away from the huge advantages that the software has by doing this. So my best advice to that is just don't go there, not needed. Next issue, my pet peeve, over modeling. Just be careful with the whole big amount of detail that you want to put into your model. Keep it in, I mean, keep a healthy proportion between the size of your project and how much detail you put in the model. A detail like I'm showing here for that base of a wall, that can be shown in a rendering. And that can be done in a rendering program without bogging down your Revit model. Just think that nobody's going to zoom into that model to that detail. So be sparing. And how, I mean, I have seen models that have the doorknobs modeled to the finest detail, and I'm like, don't, not needed. Revit is a memory hog as is. So just be careful with that. But then don't go to the other side where you go under modeling, and instead of modeling something, you use lines, 2D lines instead of Revit elements. My question to that is, why? Please, why would you do that? So again, don't go there. It is going to make a very cool program not very cool. Next, and this is something that has to do with the mysteries of Revit. Revit has this invisible internal origin. And Revit likes to keep its stuff close to the internal origin. And modeling far away from the internal origin will make Revit unhappy. An unhappy Revit will create unhappy users. So try to keep your model near to it. That internal origin is there somewhere in the inside of Revit. It is not connected to your survey point, and it's not connected to your project base point. Next is the fact that people like to work just in one view. Try to keep more than one view open and tile your views in your interface. Use the advantage that you are in a 3D modeling program and get used to being in a 3D environment. Does not mean that you're going to model in the 3D view. Model in either your floor plan or your perpendicular views, called either sections or elevations. Those are the views that you model in. But keep a 3D view handy, tiled there somewhere, that you can see the impact of what you're doing in a 3D environment. And I'm going to just apologize. I just discovered there is a mistake in my spelling there, because I was so intent of keeping your project browser organized. And that comes back to my first statement, naming conventions. I have seen projects that have been handed over to me from clients of ours that want us to give them pointers of how they can improve their workflow. And the first thing I see is views that are called floor 1, copy 1 of copy 2 of copy 3 of copy 1 created by Peter. And that is a waste of time. Whenever you're modeling in Revit, you want to model in such a way, and you want to keep your naming conventions in such a way that somebody that is not you can open that project and understand it without that many issues and without having to open 500 views. Keep it simple. Always try to keep it simple, keep it nice and organized. Don't over-organize your project browser either, right? Next thing that I advise everybody, develop a template file and then create view templates in your template file. View templates allow you to bring views back to the way you want your views to look like in your construction documents very easily. Develop a template file, and when I say develop a template file, is because the more I travel this Revit path in my life, the more I realize that a template file is something that is very intimate to each company. So you need to get together, or you need to have a BIMCAD manager that is very knowledgeable, or you need to get together with us to get advice and to get help into creating a comprehensive template that will be a time saver for you. Now, to bring this back home to my last remarks, a couple of funnies that I found in my investigation for this webinar. Yeah, the first one, we want to go through the CAD standards or BIM standards battle without having that many injuries. Just a reminder that the funny below it, with the experience about that very early version of AutoCAD and Revit, just remember where we came from in our design path. I mean, we used to have Q-squares and drafting tables. And then,
sorry to interrupt you. It's just that we have a question. They want to go back. Douglas says, can you circle back to the in-place families? I'm not familiar with what these are and how they compare to the type of family you recommend using. Thank you.
Yeah, let me show you in the Revit interface. Very good question, and thank you guys. When you are in the Revit interface, and let me open up the first floor plan view, you have in the architecture tab under components, when you're going to place a component, you have this model in place. And that when I start this command, this is what is called the in-place families. And when you start this command in Revit, it opens up this little dialog box here, the family category parameters, where you define the type of family that you're going to create. So let's say you're going to create something that is from the casework family. And once you click OK to that, it opens up this dialog box here that allows you to give a name to it. Naming conventions, always make sure that it's not called casework 1. I'm just cleaning a template for a client that had casework 1 to casework 50 created as in-place families in there. Call it kitchen cabinet. So that somebody later on knows what it is, because casework is very too far reaching for my taste, right? And once you give it a name, Revit returns turns itself to the family editor, where you can create an extrusion, and you can make a shape, and then finish the model, and then you will have an in-place family. It is the same as going to the family editor and creating a family. It has the same amount of effort, only that this family is only usable in this project. If you try to export it into another project, it will create a whole bunch of problems. Because when it exports into somewhere else, it will bring the levels that it has here into the project where you're inserting it. And then you will have levels that are in your project, and then you have another set of levels that come from the in-place family that you created in whatever project. So when you create an in-place family, it's because that family wants to live only in that one project, and that you really need the background to create it in the project. And it's a very, very specific situation. And from my point of view, just don't. Okay, it's one of those situations where, again, I go, no, don't do those. Okay, don't, I mean, no, no. I mean, the more I think about it, my answer is like, no. That is my short answer. My long answer is like, no, sir, don't do them. So that, in a nutshell, is the in-place family. Let me cancel the model here and go back to my PowerPoint. Any other questions?
No, right now. Thank you so much, and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that was perfect. That was perfect. So my elephant, to tackle that BIM elephant, which is a big monster. The whole concept of BIM can be overwhelming. while you are developing a template, develop a user's manual for reference, just to remind you why you did certain things, and also for onboarding new staff. Now, regarding that user's manual, it should not be as thick as a Bible. Keep it simple. Okay? And with that, I am going to open the floor for other questions.
All right. Thank you, Sandra, for that wonderful presentation. And as a reminder for everybody, you can ask a question on the left-hand corner. And the other question I see here is, what is your best advice when moving into Revit?
When you make the decision to jump into this Revit bandwagon, my best advice is, first of all, get formal training. I know people go, oh yes, you can learn Revit through videos and YouTube and the internet. You are missing part of the functionality of the software. The coursework that we do here at MicroCAD will not only teach you the software, but will also teach you how Revit wants things done. Don't forget, this is a tool, and you need to learn how to use the tool, right? So, but as a tool as it is, you also want to learn the same way as you learned when you learned AutoCAD, that you learned the likes and dislikes of AutoCAD. You need to learn the likes and dislikes of Revit, and you need to be guided into a comprehensive workflow. I have taught a whole bunch of people that came from, oh yeah, I taught Revit to myself, and when they finish the class with me, they kind of go, wow, I heard and I saw a whole bunch of things that I did not know. And you don't want to miss out on that information. That is point number one. Point number two, lean on knowledgeable people to create your template. Don't try to, I mean, soon after you want to implement Revit in your company, once you have gotten trained, you should send one or two people for further training, or talk to us so that we can be your template consultants and we can help you create that intimate element of your company that's called your template, so that in a certain amount of time you will be really very productive with Revit. Okay, not having a template makes you reinvent the wheel in every project that you do, or makes you start going, oh, we had that created a project such and such, and then your Reviting, your development of your projects turns into kind of go fish kind of situation. So to me, that is my best advice to answer that question. Any other questions, Juliana?
Yes, we have a few others. Next question is, why do we have to disable add-ons to make the program function properly? I.e., Avatar, Door Hardware, Enscape, MicroCAD, Productivity Tools, Nucor, BIM, etc.
It depends on your hardware. Still, I mean, we are in the computer industry, so I always advise people to have very healthy, and when I say healthy C drives, I mean big C drives, especially if you want to add all your add-ons. You want to have your RAM beefed up, because Revit likes wiggle space, and when you have add-ons, you really want to have wiggle space.
Thank you. And we have another question from Jenny Guzman. How do you go about setting the survey base point to, let's say, 25 feet above sea level, while the project base point refers to 0, 0, 0, and keeping both of these base points close to Revit's default internal base point?
That is an awesome question. Um, you got me here a little bit out of whack. There is, I mean, I can investigate that further for you. Uh, you have the base point and the survey point have properties, and then you can relate them one to the other. And I know exactly where to find the answer right now. It's evading my a little bit elderly brain. So Juliana, if we can take her email address, and I can send that answer to her in a more detailed manner, because
Absolutely. Yeah.
there is a precise workflow for that. It's a little bit lengthy, so definitely I can give you that workflow in an email. Yep.
Absolutely.
Awesome question. Awesome question.
Hey, Jenny, I'm sorry we couldn't answer your question, but we will do it in a better way through email. So Sandra will be contacting you with a further, more elaborate answer on that. And the next question we have is from Curtis Milton. I linked 3D CAD models from SKP and DWG. What is the best workflow for importing solid models? I think those are two different questions. It's just the same person.
Okay, when you are going to, and let me jump back to Revit, for a 3D CAD file to come in 3D, depending on what you need it for, sometimes my workflow is better to bring it into a family and then bring that family in. If not, when you go to import that CAD file, you want to make sure to not flatten it out by keeping this current view only unchecked. Okay, the minute you put the check marker here, you're flattening the 3D of the CAD file. So inside the model, that is the way I would bring them in, depending on what I want to use them for. If I might much rather bring them into the family editor and then from there into my Revit model. Next question. This is very good.
All righty. And we have another one, an outside question of the presentation. Can create a scope box other than a rectangular shop?
No.
Okay, that was quick.
I'm so very sorry. I feel bad when my answer is just like that. But notice that your scope 2 just allows you to create rectangular shapes.
Okay, got it. And I don't see further questions.
I mean, the scope boxes can be rotated, but besides of that, no, that's the... yeah.
Alrighty. Yeah, no, I don't see any more questions, but I want to remind you all about our upcoming webinar on August 24. Jumpstart your civil project with InfraWorks. This one will be at 11 a.m. Eastern time. You can check our website to register and check also our September agenda, our September webinar, so you can register and have them in your calendar ready to go. Also, if you want to learn any of these topics in detail, you can always take a custom training with Sandra or someone else on our team. We also offer group classes online. So yeah, be sure to be checking the MicroCAD website for future webinars. And I think this concludes our webinars if there's no more questions. I want to thank you, Sandra, for that wonderful presentation. That was very practical for everybody. And yeah, thank you, everyone, and thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, and I see a question here. Where can I see the other events? You can go, you can click on the left hand corner. There's a link to our website, and it's linked to directly to our events. So you can just click in there and it'll take you directly to our agenda, our webinar agenda. Yeah. And these are our contact numbers. Please do not hesitate to contact us if you have any questions or have any inquiries. And I think that's it for today. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, Sandra.
You are very welcome, and thank you, everybody, for being in our seminar today.
Bye bye.